Hey everyone, and welcome back to Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite. I am your host, Jim Chapman. Of course, I want to welcome everybody back to the show. Thank you so much for your support. Before I get into today's episode, I got to tell you what gave me the idea of coming up with this episode. And that is, and look, I'm probably late to the party, but I finally had time to check out the Netflix series based on the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders. It was called America's Sweethearts. Now, I gotta say, it was pretty good. I've watched it actually with my daughters, and it was an interesting look at what has become not only a piece of American football history, but pop culture as well. Everybody knows the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. You know what I do? As soon as I finished watching it, and I pretty much binged on it, I watched every episode in just a couple of days. I started thinking, I bet they've had some scandals related to the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders throughout their history. They've been around a while. So I put my research hat on and I got to work, because if they got scandals, I want to bring it to you. And I'll tell you what, you're going to enjoy this episode. I'll bet there's a lot of things you didn't know or you haven't heard regarding the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. So I'm going to start out giving you a view from 30,000 feet of the history of the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. And I actually found a really good article that was put out by Rolling Stone that covers that history. So I'm going to go over that with you, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. And then we're going to go into some lawsuits that have occurred over the years and some scandals that you are not going to believe. So here's a little bit of the history. Now, a common legend has it that Tex Schramm, he was the general manager of the Dallas Cowboys from 1959 to 1989, was inspired to create a cheer squad after a, shall we say, voluptuous local stripper named Bubbles Cash caused a huge stir at a 1967 Cowboys game as she strutted through the Cotton Bowl in a leopard skirt suit, carrying 2 cotton candies. Imagine that. Now, while it's true that Bubbles Cash did help boost the popularity of, at that time, the relatively new Cowboys, the main flaw with this myth is that the Cowboys had already had a cheer squad, albeit a squad of both male and female high schoolers, and it was a woman who conceptualized both this squad and the professional one as we know it today. Now, back in either 1960 or 1961, no one apparently can remember exactly when, Tex Schramm, he approaches a model and educator by the name of Dee Brock, and he had an idea of putting cheerleaders on the sidelines of the Cowboys games. He wanted them wearing entirely white uniforms in full leather skirts, and he didn't plan on paying them, nor did he plan on paying Brock to manage them. So Brock had to stop him right there because, for one thing, models don't work for free. And also, that uniform would cost way too much, especially for a guy who is obviously kind of a cheapskate. So that's why she decided to recruit high schoolers who, they would do it for free, right? Now, let me tell you a little bit about Dee Brock. She was a fashion model. She was very popular, and that was despite one of the owners of Neiman Marcus telling her he didn't really like models with big breasts like hers. But she also held a master's degree in English from the University of North Texas and was a high school teacher, all while raising 3 boys. And some of you ladies out there, you know what that's like to work and have, multiple kids, and hardest workers in the world, I always say. Now, in addition to all that, she helped found the first community college in Dallas. She worked as the senior vice president of educational programming at PBS, and she earned a PhD after leaving the Cowboys organization at the end of the 1975 season. So she was pretty much a badass. Now, after Schramm approached her about the job and he offered to pay her $0 a year with 0 benefits, she was able to negotiate that, and she got him all the way up to $900, which in today's money is about $9,000 a year. So back to those high schoolers. Between 1961 and 1971, the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders consisted of high schoolers, and there were guys and girls on that cheer squad, or boys and girls. A local PR guy, he decided to nickname them the Cowbells and their Beau, and he spelled it Beaux. But Dee Dee Brock, she hated that. She hated the fact that boys were even on the squad, so she dropped them from the squad in 1969. So before the boys were dropped from the squad, it was still boys and girls. Brock, she decides to integrate the squad, and this was in 1965, right? It wasn't a common thing back then, integration. It was still largely segregated in the South. Even though there were still segregated schools and churches, they all came together at the Cotton Bowl. So after convincing Tex Schramm that the local squad should reflect Dallas and the people in the stands, she recruited a local high school drill team instructor named Francis Robinson and basically asked this person to help manage the squad. In 1971, half of the members of the cheer squad were actually black, which also happened to be the first time the Cowboys went to the Super Bowl. So the cheapskate Dallas Cowboys organization at this time, they wouldn't pay for the cheerleaders to go to the Super Bowl. So Dee Brock, she goes on local TV and she asked for a sponsor, which she got. Then she had to do it all over again when the Cowboys made the Super Bowl in 1972. How about that? So it was in 1972 that Dee Brock decided she wanted more dancing, less traditional cheers, and older, more mature cheerleaders. And this is when Texie Waterman was brought on to choreograph. So Dee Brock had met with Texie Waterman years earlier when they were the only two women cast to wear a bikini on stage. And this was in a 1984 summer musical called Wish You Were Here. And y'all, this is at a time when the bikini was quite scandalous. Getting back to 1972, Schramm, just like with Dee Brock, he didn't want to pay Waterman. So Brock split her own salary, which, rather than being increased year after year, as would be normal, was actually knocked down. She was only making $600 at that time. So these two women who created the most professional cheer squad of all time were making $300 each in 1972. How's that for commitment? So a little bit about Texie Waterman. She was a jazz and musical theater dance instructor in Dallas, and she had previously danced in supper clubs in New York City and danced on Sid Caesar's variety show. Now, eventually she returned to Dallas, where she was born and raised, and she began teaching in two dance studios that were owned by her mom, who was a woman also named Texie. And the cheerleaders who got to dance under Waterman's instruction, they loved her. They were very devoted to her, and she choreographed the team until 1983. So in 1972, 7 cheerleaders out of dozens who tried out strutted onto the pitch of a brand new Texas stadium in the iconic blue and white fringy Western uniform, and at that time, white go-go boots. Now, they did change those to cowboy boots in 1989. Now, there is a bit of controversy regarding who actually came up with the uniform that became so iconic and it now actually sits in the Smithsonian, the original Dallas Cowboys uniform. That's how iconic they are. So Dee Brock claims that she showed up to a meeting with a sketch of it. But another woman by the name of Paula Van Wagener, she provided a sketch that is now also featured in the Smithsonian along with the uniform itself. And Van Wagener was hired to conceptualize the uniform by Dee Brock and Tex Schramm. And she says she designed the one we all know today as well as the one with a blue button-up and fringy white skirt. And there was actually a woman who sewed all these uniforms by hand for over 24 years, and her name was Levita Krager. And the handcrafted uniforms are now made currently by Lisa Dobson. Now, after D. Brock left, Texie Waterman was in charge for a while until it was passed on to Suzanne Mitchell, and she served as the first official director of the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. And she led the squad during its golden era, if you will, of the late 70s and early 80s. She was originally hired as Tex Schramm's secretary in 1976, and he told her to run the squad in her spare time. Now, for some reason, she agreed to that, and she introduced kind of a boot camp mentality to the cheerleaders. And under her direction, the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders just blew up. They got a made-for-TV movie. They appeared on the show The Love Boat, if you remember that show. Loved that show when I was younger. And went on USO tours. And it didn't hurt that the Cowboys also won their second World Championship in 1977. So the phenomenon of the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders, it really kicked off after the camera caught someone by the name of Glenda Swearigan during a Monday night game on November 10th of 1975. The camera gets panned to her and she gives a little cute wink to that camera. Well, that was a moment in time. Every young man and probably a lot of older men in America fell in love with the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders at that point. Now, believe it or not, today, the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, they are the highest paid cheer squad in the NFL. And they still, even being the highest paid cheer squad, they only make $500 per week. And we're going to get into a lawsuit that actually, I would say, helped with that. But I wanted to give you a little not well-known history on the Cowboy Cheerleaders in their early days. So I hope you got something out of that. Now, pay throughout the time of the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders was horrible. Let's just be honest. And these ladies work hard. You saw what they go through on the Netflix series if you watched it. And these NFL teams, especially teams of the Dallas Cowboys stature, I mean, you're talking billions of dollars they make. So certainly these cheerleaders can make more. And a cheerleader by the name of Erica Wilkins, I know for a fact she agrees with me because she actually sued the Dallas Cowboys over cheerleader pay. And it created a huge bit of controversy. This was in June of 2018. And I'm going to reference an article by the New York Post that covered her lawsuit. So during the 2014-2015 NFL season, Erica Williams had a banner rookie year as a Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. At the time, she was 22. She was from Friendswood, Texas. So she was native to the state of Texas. And she was one of just 16 women to make the team's show group, quote unquote, which was an elite squad made up of the best technical dancers on the team. She even appeared solo on the cover of the group's swimsuit calendar. And she performed on stage with both Blake Shelton and Usher. So her total earnings doing all of that, $4,700. Now, she was quoted as saying, yes, it's prestigious, but at the end of the day, prestige doesn't pay my rent. I can't walk down to my leasing office and hand them my uniform for a month. Wilkins, whose career ended in August of 2017, she, in 2018, sued the Cowboys organization for lost wages. Now, in the suit, she claimed the cheerleaders were paid less than the team's mascot, a costume cowboy by the name of Rowdy, incidentally, and played by a man who reportedly makes $65,000 a year plus commission. The cheerleaders, meanwhile, are paid $8 an hour for practices. Now, this was back in 2018, which at that time, that was just above minimum wage. and they got flat rates for games and appearances such as calendar signings. Now, Wilkins also claimed she worked hours, many of them in AT&T Stadium, which is Jerry Jones' $1.2 billion football stadium, for which she wasn't compensated, and that she wasn't paid overtime for hours worked in excess of 40 hours per week. Now, at that time, she wasn't the only ex-cheerleader complaining about pay. 5 other former cheerleaders, but they were with the Houston Texans. They sued that team for failing to compensate them fully and for creating what they considered a hostile work environment. And cheerleaders from other teams jumped on board. The Washington Redskins, Miami Dolphins, and even the New Orleans Saints filed similar complaints. Now, Wilkins, who she didn't call herself a feminist, but she said she's pursuing justice for other women who will be a part of the legacy of the Cowboys one day. And she said, I could have settled the lawsuit with the Cowboys for just my back wages and unpaid wages that they owed me. They offered that, but I'm not willing to settle. My goal is to help other cheerleaders and women as a whole. So Wilkins, she's the daughter of an electrical engineer father. Her mother was a dance instructor. And she said she wanted to be with the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders since the 7th or 8th grade. Her mom even had a couple of her ex-students become Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders. So at a dance competition when she was just 16 years old, Wilkins was approached by a Dallas Cowboys Cheerleader scout. In the scout, she was surprised to learn I was only 16 and not 18. Wilkins recalled. She followed me and asked me to audition at 18, but I wanted to go to college first. So Wilkins went to college in my hometown, Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge, where she was an LSU Tiger Golden Girl, graduating in 2014 with a degree in mass communications. So that scout kept in touch with her throughout the years and would reach out and basically say, hey, don't forget about us. We want you on our squad. So after graduation, Wilkins headed to Dallas to try out, and she wowed the judges. She was actually on the CMT channel's version of Making the Squad, Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders. Now, while the video of her tryout performance was played, Kelly Finglass, the squad's longtime director, said there are rookie candidates that are stronger than veterans, and I thought Erica was a wow solo. Of the 500 women who auditioned that year, Wilkins was one of just 43 chosen for the 2-month training camp. Now, in the end, some 36 ladies, including performers from the previous year, they make the squad. There are women who quit their day jobs just for training camp because it's so strenuous and draining, she said. She not only made the cut, she was named to the elite 16-person show group. And the show group is coveted because that's the group that gets to go on the USO tours. And also any performances that are outside of the game day settings. Now, despite the prestige, the cheerleaders were not always paid for the time spent prepping for those appearances. As a matter of fact, Wilkins made her rent by working part-time as a technician at a beauty spa, which combined with her new schedule left her little time, obviously, for friends and her personal life, dating and things of that nature. She said practice officially starts at 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, but you better be there by 6 or 6:30 at the latest in the locker room practicing before practice. Sometimes we might have Monday off if the game fell on a Sunday, she said. Rehearsals would last between 3 and 6 hours, and there is no showing up in a ponytail and sweatpants. Cheerleaders are required to come camera ready with styled hair and full makeup. For practices, Wilkins said she was paid $8 an hour. For appearances, she was allegedly paid a flat fee of $100 in her first year, $200 in her second, and $300 in her third year. And they would cap those increases at $500. Now, on game days, she earned a flat rate of about $200. We had to show up hair and makeup ready 5 to 6 hours before the game. There were performances outside the stadium before the game, as well as some at halftime and, of course, throughout the game. Afterward, they would often meet with squad coaches. So she said, you're looking at a 12-hour day on Sundays. Now, while filming the CMT show, the cheerleaders were paid by the Cowboys for practice hours as usual, but the clock stops as soon as we stop dancing, Wilkins said. She added the ladies had to wait around and film one-on-one interviews while judges deliberated, and that was unpaid. I've been there as late as 3 a.m., she said. And she also noted that cheerleading is not just a September to February job. She noted that during the off-season in the NFL, when they didn't have as many practices and appearances, she actually got a check one time for $12. Now, Wilkins also noted that the squad does have a local hair salon sponsor, but the women are required to tip for whatever service they receive and what that cost is. And she said, for me, it was probably close to $150 a month in tips. She also paid $10 to $15 out of pocket for spray tans once or twice a month year round. The ladies have to wash their own uniforms, which is not a huge deal, but the players don't have to do that. Why is it any different for us? Now, during her tenure, the cheerleaders didn't have access to a gym or fitness membership and were not allowed to use the NFL team's facilities. Cheerleaders who appeared in the squad swimsuit and sideline calendars weren't even given a free copy. We had to buy them for ourselves and for our friends and family. She said the Cowboys organization is selling our image, our likeness, images of our bodies that we work very hard to keep in shape, and they're the only ones making a profit. And learning that Cowboys mascot I mentioned, Rowdy, was making more than the cheerleaders, that just kind of fired her up even more. I was on an appearance one time and I was talking to Rowdy, she said, and he said to me, I book my own appearances a lot of times so I can make up to 6 figures. After doing a bit of research, Wilkins discovered the man who played Rowdy makes an annual salary of $65,000. She said, I was definitely stunned and shocked. Last year, Wilkins suffered a shoulder and neck injury soon after her time with the Cowboys ended, and while she loved her time on the team, she saw that injury as a blessing that allowed her to kind of become a crusader. And she said, I believe that God was giving me the freedom I needed to speak out. So that's her story. And eventually she did work hard and increased really the salary for cheerleaders all over the country based off of the pressure she applied through that lawsuit. So there you have that. Now, throughout the years with the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders, there have been some controversies and scandals that weren't as high profile as others, but very interesting. And there's a few that I'm going to give you right now. Now, one has made its rounds over the years that actually occurred in 1978. And that is a famous photo in which backup quarterback Danny White actually had a famous photo snap of him taken on the sidelines after the Super Bowl, making out. And I mean making out, tongue and all, with a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. Now, of course, this is a big-time no-no. There's supposed to be no fraternization between the cheerleaders and the players, but that didn't stop Danny White. And he became a hero for every young man in America when that picture hit the paper. Here's a little history on that. So the image was taken by a Sports Illustrated photographer at the 1978 Super Bowl, and Danny White was kissing a cheerleader by the name of Cindy Lewis. Now, what made this even more controversial than the fact they're not supposed to fraternize is both of them were married at the time of the game. And Lewis remembers the kiss as innocent. It looks worse than it is, she said. It looks like we're both tonguing. It was just a little peck. I'm going to put that picture on the Patreon, and you ladies and guys tell me if that don't look like their tongues are down each other's throat. It sure looks like it to me. Now, Lewis also recalls telling Suzanne Mitchell, who was the director of the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, that White had kissed her and that there had been a lot of photos taken. And I guess she was kind of freaking out, not only because of the fact that, you're not supposed to do that, but also, hey, they're both married. So that was an interesting little bit of scandal back in the day. Now, I'm going to get into a scandal for you that is actually not as comical and really very disturbing. And you may or may not have heard of this, but it's a big scandal that happened in the recent past, and it's voyeurism charges against a senior team executive at the Dallas Cowboys organization. And Sports Illustrated, they actually did an amazing job on covering this scandal. Now, you got to hear this. It's pretty shocking and disturbing, but it just goes to show you that technology sometimes can be a bad thing. So here's that story. The Dallas Cowboys paid a confidential settlement of $2.4 million after 4 members of the iconic cheerleading squad accused a senior team executive of voyeurism in their locker room as they were undressing during a 2015 event at AT&T Stadium. Each of the women received $399,000 after the incident. One of the cheerleaders alleged she clearly saw Richard Dalrymple, the Cowboys' longtime senior vice president for public relations, standing behind a wall in their locker room with his iPhone extended toward them while they were changing their clothes. Dalrymple gained entry to the back door of the cheerleaders' locked dressing room by using a security key card. Dalrymple was also accused by a lifelong Cowboys fan of taking what's known as upskirt photos of Charlotte Jones Anderson, who is the team's senior vice president and the daughter of owner Jerry Jones, in the Cowboys' war room during the 2015 NFL draft. The fan signed an affidavit that he was watching a live stream in the war room on the team's website when he saw the alleged incident. Dalrymple told officials that he entered the cheerleaders' locker room not knowing the women were there, and he left right away. His account was contradicted by the way of multiple sources that described the alleged incident on ESPN. He was quoted as saying, "People who know me, co-workers, the media and colleagues know who I am and what I'm about. I understand the very serious nature of the claims. I don't take them lightly. The accusations, however, are false. One was accidental and the other simply did not happen." And he's basically saying the upskirt stuff didn't happen and walking in the Cowboys locker room was an accident. Everything that was alleged was thoroughly investigated years ago, and I cooperated fully. A Cowboys representative said the team thoroughly investigated both alleged incidents and found no wrongdoing by Dalrymple and no evidence that he took a photo or video of the women. The team does not dispute that Dalrymple used his security key card to access the locker room while the women were changing clothes. The organization took these allegations extremely serious and moved immediately to investigate. That from Jim Wilkinson, a communications consultant for the team. Even so, the team issued Dalrymple a formal written warning in October of 2015. A team source declined to provide a copy of the warning to reporters. The team also declined to detail information, including timestamp data from surveillance cameras and security key cards that would show precisely when Dalrymple entered and left the dressing room. If any wrongdoing had been found, Rich would have been terminated immediately, Wilkinson said. Everybody involved just felt terrible about the unfortunate incident. So Dalrymple continued working for the Cowboys in his same role for 6 years after the settlement, and eventually he retired after 32 years with the organization. But it didn't end there. Now, in relation to Jerry Jones' daughter in those upskirt photos, the Cowboys fan, Randy Horton, who actually reported that, he posted on a TV station's page that he had seen something strange while watching a live video feed from the Cowboys draft war room on April 30th of 2015. And then Horton, sure of what he saw, he actually private messaged Charlotte Jones directly on Facebook, and he put, "In case you haven't been made aware already, that guy, Rich Dalrymple, who was sitting in the back corner of the war room last night, on several occasions reached over and took upskirt photos with his phone during the live stream. My wife and I watched in amazement. It happened when you guys stood up celebrating your draft pick. I believe Carolina was on the clock at the time. Go check it out." So Charlotte Jones, she never saw Horton's post. I'm sure she gets, hundreds of DMs a day. But Horton later told ESPN that he saw Dalrymple hold his phone under Charlotte Jones' skirt on several occasions and appear to snap photos. He said, "I never forgot what I saw. The first time he reached out from a sitting position behind her, and she is standing with her back to him, and he did it once. He looked at the screen, touched the screen, then he did it again a second time. He's sitting in the chair in the corner of the table on the left and held the phone beneath the corner of the table with the camera side facing up where she is standing, and he did it again. I have no doubt in my mind what he was doing. It was obvious." Now, when this all came out, of course, other people came out and said they noticed that as well. Interesting that he was able to remain on that team after all of that. Shocking, really. So there it is. That's a little history on the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. It's also a little bit of the scandals of the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. But I got to be honest, for the organization of the popularity that they are, they really don't have a ton of scandals. I mean, there's some stuff that happened over the years, but what a well-run organization. And shout out to those ladies. They keep their noses clean over there, I guess you could say. Okay, now, if you watched America's Sweethearts, the Netflix documentary that I referenced at the beginning of this episode, you were introduced to a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader candidate for the first time, and her name was Reese Weaver. Now, for those of you who have not seen the documentary yet, Reese Weaver does not exist. She does exist, but she is absolutely unbelievable. Just an amazing young lady. I mean, the girl is gorgeous. She can dance probably better than 99.9% of the population. And she is as pure a human being as I've ever seen. Just a 1 in a million type young lady. And I'm sure she has her flaws somewhere, but look, they're hard to find. I'm telling you right now, this is an amazing human. So I saved the best for last today. And what you're going to hear right now is an interview with Reese Weaver from our friends at the Unplanned Podcast. So you can go check them out on YouTube and give them a follow. But they conducted an amazing interview with this girl that really gets into everything she experienced from her own eyes. Now, it's about an hour and a half in length and just a really good deep dive into this amazing young lady's life as she became the sweetheart of America's Sweetheart on Netflix. Everybody fell in love with her, and so I thought y'all would enjoy this. So here's that interview.
Welcome back to the Unplanned Podcast.
There's always a weird pause after you say that. It's like, do you think the live studio audience is going to clap?
I know, there's literally nobody here. We're at Reese's house, everybody. This is such a cozy place. I love your couch, by the way.
Thank you.
It is so
Best
nice.
purchase ever.
we were just talking about that. Can you tell us a little bit about how you saved $100 and delivered the couch yourself to your house?
Yes, I can. And if my husband was here, he would butt in because he'd be like, we just saved $100, okay? So obviously, like y'all know, we don't have an elevator, so we had to go up the stairs and do it. But I will say Will did majority of it. I can't complain. I might have done like maybe 3 pieces.
He carried it by himself?
Pretty much. But the thing about, so they're all pieces. So it was like, you have to take the cushions, walk them up the stairs, or you have to take like the bottom piece. Like, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then half. So probably about 10 pieces we had to bring up. Then
Holy cow.
They came with these pillows, and they're not cute pillows. So they're stuffed back there. Maybe we can show them later, but like, they're not that cute. I was like, we didn't pay for the pillows, but they came with the couch. So anyways, we've got some pillows. If you want some fairy pattern pillows, please let me know.
After this.
I'm bummed that Will couldn't be here. I know he's on a bachelor party trip, which is super fun for him. So shout out to Will. But I just wanted to ask him. Shout out to Will. Shout out to Will. But I wanted to ask about your love story, because you guys are just like such a genuine, happy couple. And so wholesome. And so like, I don't know. I think like you talked about it a little bit on the show, but I just wanted to know, maybe there's some other stuff that people that don't know about you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you watch the show, you will notice that we met in college. Will is from Alabama. I'm from Florida. Went to school at University of Alabama. And we met at a basketball game that I was cheering at. And Will, if you watch the show, know that he's the biggest Alabama basketball fan ever. And he just noticed me cheering. There's like a really cool interaction between the mascot and I, and like a little kid. And this is such a sweet story. I get like really giddy talking about it. But being on the dance team, we're all one program, and it's the Spirit program. So you have your all-girl cheerleaders, your co-ed dance team, Alabama dance team, and Big Al's, which are our mascot. So we all know each other, and I knew who the Big Al was that day, and I saw this little boy trying to get Big Al's attention, and so I was like, oh, well, let me try to get Big Al, because Big Al's busy. Everyone wants a picture with Big Al. So I grabbed Big Al, and it was like, hey, Big Al, this little boy wants a picture with you. And got a picture, and Will had said that he watched that entire interaction, and he was like, I have to know like who you are, and messaged me, or I guess I slid up on the DMs, but he followed me first. So yes, let's get that point straight.
Technically, you could say I made the first move, but he actually made the first move.
Exactly. Thank you, Abby, because everyone else thinks, oh, I slid up on the DMs, but how could I do that unless he followed me, right?
There you go.
I get what you're saying.
I can like hear his voice already saying like, well, no, she slid up. So
That's so funny.
Was he like the leader of the student section?
So there's a president of the Crimson Chaos, which is the student section, but it was him and like a few other people that were super close to the front row. And he never was president, but everyone around him, there was like a few very consistent guys. He was on the committee. Yeah.
Okay.
He was literally on the committee. But he knew a lot of basketball managers, a lot of the players. Just because when you're super loyal to a team, you kind of really get to, I guess basketball is more intimate too. Like you really get to know the players. You're closer, obviously. And then he's just the biggest Alabama basketball fan ever. So
that's so fun.
Yeah.
So what was your first date together?
It was to Another Broken Egg cafe, which was a little outside of the college campus. And I remember being so nervous because I had never been on a date before with a guy, and I was like, I'm not even going to tell anyone because I don't know how to do this. And so we went to Another Broken Egg, and he had been asking me, and I unfortunately just kept being so busy. Like I had a game, or there was a practice or something like that, and he thought I was just kind of ditching him a little bit. And but we went there, we had a great time, and then the next date, I think, or like catching up, was after the pandemic happened, because we had met right before the school shut down. And so when we got back, we met up at an Arby's out of all things. And he had called me and he was like, hey, which Arby's are you at? And I'm like, oh, I'm on the one at campus. And he's not at the right Arby's. That I guess like miscommunication or whatever, but I thought it was so funny because he was like, no, stay right there. I'm there. I'm going to be there in just a second. And so it was Arby's, and then we just started hanging out more.
That's so sweet.
That's so random. I feel like I'd never go to Arby's. I don't really know people that go there. Like, why Arby's? Is that like your favorite spot?
I don't think I've ever been to Arby's. Like ever. But it's just because I think he was going to go eat something, and then I had to go to a practice. In order to be an athlete at Bama, you have to like pass physical tests and stuff. And so I was training for my physical test coming up before school started. And I remember he was like, well, the Arby's is really close to the athletic center. Like, do you just want to meet there? And I'm thinking, sure.
You're like, I'll have a roast beef sandwich.
I feel like you do anything to see someone and you're like, yeah, Arby's sounds great.
I love
think
it.
This is my second time going to Arby's ever. And I think I maybe have gotten like a kid's menu with like apple slices and I left.
Their fries though are so good.
They actually are.
Did you
Curly
get their fries? They
fries.
look curly. Yeah.
So I didn't because I was going to go run after. So
Oh, you're like, I can't really
I
eat
was
much.
like, I gotta be really careful and cautious on what I'm eating. And then, Arby's out of all places was the best choice.
This is great.
But it's so us. It's so classic and funny that, yeah, of course we met on Arby's. Who doesn't, right?
That's really sweet. I love that he was your first boyfriend because we only
Yes.
dated each other too. So, and I feel like a lot of
Yes.
people are like, don't you feel like you should date, like figure out what you want first?
Yes, everyone says that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yes and no, but I feel like with just being so busy in general throughout my childhood and having performances, practices, I never had time for a boyfriend. And then 2 older brothers also kind of plays a role into that. Not really, but I'm
I'm
just
sure.
so busy. Just so busy growing up. You're always in extracurricular activities or hustling, bustling, and then you get to high school and then things are just extremely busy. Go to college and then honestly, I don't want to like say if it wasn't for the pandemic, but seriously, if it wasn't for kind of the hybrid year that we had significantly less games that we couldn't cheer at. And so I actually got to spend more time than I've ever had, like ever in my life, to spend it with friends and Will. And so it was kind of a blessing in disguise that, yes, there's so much sadness and just weird stuff happening in our world with COVID, but it was also an opportunity where I didn't have a lot of things going on and I could actually spend quality time with someone than if it didn't happen. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of slowed you down.
yeah.
On the documentary, I'm pretty sure you said that it took like 15 dates before you let him put your arm around
Oh my
you.
gosh. Yes. Just because like anytime, so we would always hang out with our mentors at their house, which was literally like less than a mile from my apartment that I was staying in. And at the time, Will was living with our mentors because he was the youth intern for the youth pastor. And so he lived with him because of the hybrid year. He had classes online. He had classes, some that were in person. So his mentor was like, hey, just live with us. And so we would hang out there. And so anyways, anytime we would go over there, we would watch like The Office. Had I ever watched The Office before, Will? No, but we were going to watch The Office. Did I ever watch Harry Potter before, Will? No, but I was like, okay, I'm going to like really try here, And so we would always watch like something like that. And I would always just get like uncomfortable because I never sat by a guy before. And we would just, watch The Office, something that I've never seen before, trying to be comfortable with that. And then tried to kind of impress like the mentors too, because now that they're my mentors too, they were just such incredible people. And I was like, oh, their opinion really matters. Like, I want to make sure like I'm putting my best foot forward and everything. And so anyways, anytime it came to like getting a little closer or like talking a little bit closer or like putting his arm around, it was always like really hesitant. I was like, I don't know if I could do this. And he would ask me to, kind of towards, I guess, a few months dating, he's like, well, do you want to be my girlfriend? And I'd go, let me think about it.
Like, I have to consult.
Yes. And there was a time that I guess I'd left and it was already late and Will is going to bed and Taylor and Lindley had already gone to bed. And Taylor and Lindley would always be like, did you say yes? And he'd be like, no, not tonight.
Oh, so this was multiple times that he was
Multiple
asking you to be
times.
his girlfriend,
Yes.
and you said no.
Yes.
Dang. Were you talking to your
admire the
girlfriend?
persistence.
That's like, yeah, that's bold. Like, good for Will having the
Yeah,
confidence, but like
he did.
For you, were you just it was a really big decision because you had never dated anybody? Like, were you talking to friends that were advising you on what to do?
Yes. So my roommates, I feel like I kind of kept it more of a secret because I really wanted it to come super organically. And like, I wanted to make sure I knew, like, I felt like more advice, I'd just be more confused. I'm already an indecisive person as it is. And so I valued my friends' opinions, but I didn't really talk about that decision. I guess like I wanted to come from me and happen like confidently, boldly. And I was always afraid because I never wanted to walk into a relationship because I wanted to give it 100%. And obviously with the very unknown year that we were walking into, I was nervous because I didn't want to say yes and then not be able to commit. My prayer always was, if I'm going to meet my husband, like let it be him. And I don't really want to have to keep going through this process. I said that on the docuseries and a lot of people were like, did you settle, all those things? But really it was like my answered prayer. And so when I felt confident about my decision and I said yes, it was more that it happened and it was ordained by him rather than getting other people's opinions. Because I was scared. I was like, I don't really know what to do. But it was more fun to become friends with him than it was just to like go right off the bat as boyfriend and girlfriend. So
like romantic.
Yeah.
I love that. That's kind of how we are in a way.
100%. Like we used to like FaceTime for like 12 hours straight because we were long distance, and you guys even did long distance for a while too while you were on the show, right?
Yes, a little bit of long distance here and there. Once he finally got his job, it was still kind of hard just because we were balancing like seeing each other, etc. It was hard at the time, and I even told Will, I was like, we are not a couple that can do long distance. There are so many people that make it work, and I know it is so hard for people doing long distance, but there's some people that are just blessed with being able to handle that, and I'm just such a people person that I can't be by myself for so long. Like I need to know like my person is with me, and so that was hard to navigate a little bit in the beginning, but now we're married, so it's a lot more fun. I get to see my best friend every day.
Okay, I've got to ask, because you just casually brought up your two brothers, and I feel like people probably don't realize that you have older brothers, and not just one, but two. So what were they saying when you were telling them about Will? What were they like? Did they ever have an altercation with Will where they like sat him down and said, okay, like if you hurt my sister, like you're a dead man? Like what did they say to Will?
I actually don't know what my oldest said to Will, but I remember they met him for the first time. It was kind of a while into, because going to Alabama, I never had a lot of opportunities going home just because, especially being on the dance team, there was games, and when people could go home for the holidays, my holiday break was working towards nationals.
Thank you to Dreamland for sponsoring this portion of today's episode.
Are you a parent that is struggling to sleep because your kid just keeps waking up in the night? Because we've been there. And it's horrible.
Well, okay. We were there a lot with our first, but by the time we had a second, I feel like we were pretty much sleep baby experts.
And something that actually really helped us was the Dreamland weighted sleep sack.
Oh, yeah. We have like 6 of those guys on deck because the thought of putting our baby down for night sleep or a nap without one is actually terrifying. If you don't know what a Dreamland sleep sack is, basically, it's a gently weighted sack that you zip your baby up in. It actually has double zippers, so you can do easy nighttime diaper changes if you need to. But they have this thing called Cover Calm technology on top of it that's gently weighted on the top, and the baby can still move and crawl and stand up in it. But basically, it just makes them feel like they're getting a cozy hug all night long, and it helps them fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. They're so nice. The babies feel super cozy in them, and it just basically evenly distributes weight from their shoulders to their toes. The whole family sleeps better, which is great because the number one issue for new parents is lack of sleep. So if you haven't given Dreamland a shot, get one for your friend who just had a baby. They will love you. They will probably give you a kiss on the mouth. Go to dreamlandbabyco.com and enter our code UNPLANNED at checkout to receive 20% off site-wide and free shipping. This offer is for new and existing customers.
It was really hard to get home a lot of the time and then get with my brothers because they're busy too. So anytime I would make a visit home, it would be fast. It would be, seeing probably grandma, grandpa, a few friends, and then getting back because I had practice or school. But the very first time the younger oldest brother met Will went in for like a hug, and Shay was like, I was more expecting a handshake, but I'll take a hug, And I'm like, oh, okay, awkward. But it's funny because obviously Shay knows my personality and found out Will's personality really quickly, because I guess guys are more like, hey man, like handshake, then bring it in. But Will was like, hey, nice to meet you, to a hug.
Did he try to hug your dad?
I think it was a good handshake.
Okay.
I think it was a solid handshake at first. Yeah.
What about your mom? Did he shake your mom's hand or give your mom a hug?
I think it was a hug.
Okay.
I think it was a hug. And
sweet.
This is a fun fact, but the very first time my parents met Will, his best man also met my parents. So Will met my parents and his best man all at the same time, which I thought was really special. It wasn't just a one-on-one with Will and I. It was like my parents came and it was Will and the best man and my roommate. So it was special to have more family friends like involved. But
and who is this best man?
Yeah. So the best man was Blaine. He's from Alabama, long childhood friend. And it was the first game of the year and the only football game I actually could do it, because this was during COVID. And so my parents came, and the very first time they met Will was with Blaine as well. And so Blaine was like, wow, I'm super honored that I get to meet your girlfriend's parents at the same time you met them. Like, so I don't know. I thought that was a fun fact to include, but
That's sweet. And the big day was in April.
was April, yes. And fun fact, it was 420.
Wow.
Yes.
Would not have expected that from
No,
you.
I know. And everyone thinks that. And what's funny is I remember being so...
I love how you just casually said that like it was 420.
It was 420.
Like it was a holiday.
Because everyone's like, Reese, do you know what 420 means? And I was like, no, it's going to be our anniversary 4/20/24. I think that's like so cute. But didn't really expect that was the only date that the venue was open, because sure, now that I know what 420 means, no one wants to get married on 420. And Will was like, Reese, like, you really don't know what that date is. I'm like, you're really making me nervous. Like, I thought it was just going to be like a cute anniversary date. And he's like, it is, and it always will be, but it will always also be something else too. I was like, oh, awkward.
Your wedding must have been lit.
Everyone just
What were the jokes? What were the jokes people were cracking on your wedding day?
All the jokes were, oh, I'm bringing this or I'm bringing this. And of course, everyone thought it was so fitting that was going to be our wedding date, because they were like, out of all people, 420 was going to be Will and Reese's wedding date. Like, it was more funny than anything, but you know, everyone wanted to be lighthearted about it. And yeah.
Did Will know though, like right away when you picked out the date, that 420? Like, was he aware of the date, or did it take?
Yeah, he was aware of the date, because I guess, I don't know, like,
Hey, it was available.
I was a little more sheltered, I will say, but he was like, yeah, it was available, and it was perfect because with DCC, a lot of the girls that are getting married or engaged have to wait until the spring because of being an off season. And so this was though before I found out I made the team. So plan A was, if I were to make the team, then this would probably be the best time to do it in. But if I didn't make the team, this would also still be the best time doing our wedding here, because I would want to have retried out if I didn't make the team. And that was kind of the area where tryouts would happen and kind of getting back into training camp would start and pick up. So I was really trying to put my best foot forward and thinking, okay, plan A would be, if I were to make it, you know, this would probably be the best time. But if I didn't, this would also still be the best time, because I would be trying out again.
So the whole time you were filming the show, I guess that was more so, a lot of it was after training camp and stuff, but you're also wedding planning.
Oh my gosh. I had like 5 jobs like all last year, because wedding planning is literally a full-time job, I feel like. But yeah, so all last year, you know, you're not secreting, that's not even a word, but you're really hush about the docuseries, and no one really knew what was going on. But I had that going on. I was a rookie on the team, and that was a lot just in general. And then also moved out to Texas and trying to figure out life and what else to do outside of DCC. And then also wedding planning in a whole different state, then we got married in Florida. So that was really hard trying to navigate times to meet with my vendors and stuff like that. So last year was busy, but I'm very grateful.
That's commitment to plan your wedding around the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I feel like anyone who wants to pursue this dream, like, or any sort of dream, like, they're going to have that in mind. But at the end of the day, like, I wanted to be on this team so badly that, and I also wanted to get married in the spring. So I felt like it was kind of perfect in a sense. But yeah, it is a lot of commitment. And a lot of the girls, I mean, I can't even think of any of the girls that are currently married right now who have had a wedding like in season. It's just not really possible, honestly, because we're so busy.
You're like, you couldn't have a minute to like enjoy newlywed life, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on.
Has being a cheerleader for the Cowboys, has that been a dream ever since you were a little girl?
Pretty much. I would say that the dream to become an NFL cheerleader happened really in college, kind of during my COVID year, just because you do a lot of thinking that year. There's a lot more time on your hands, so you're kind of processing. And obviously, too, in college, you're processing a lot already and trying to navigate like what your future is going to look like. And then on top with a boyfriend, you're like, whoa, I'm really trying to navigate a lot. But fun fact, for one of my Christmas gifts that year, AT&T Stadium always hosts the Cotton Bowl. But during COVID, it was swapped. So they actually host the Rose Bowl game, and Alabama played Notre Dame that year, and it was at AT&T Stadium. And so one of my Christmas gifts was actually to go to the Rose Bowl in Texas to watch Alabama. One of my friends was currently on the team, and I kind of vicariously was watching everything really through social media and all her pictures and everything. And I was thinking, I've always wanted to pursue a professional dance career, but I didn't know if I wanted to go more on the Broadway track, because I did a lot of musicals when I was growing up, and I loved that side of dance, that kind of performance quality of being on a stage and doing more jazz and musical theater. But also going to Alabama, being on a dance team, I really enjoyed kind of that entertainment aspect of dance as well. So I went to the Rose Bowl that year. I walked into AT&T Stadium. That was my very first time. And that was my very first time actually in Dallas, Texas. And so when I was there, I felt like this piece of, no, like I see myself here. And my friend being on the team, I kind of had that in the back of my mind that, you know, she pursued her dream and I would love to do the same. And then seeing her dream come to fruition, I thought like this could maybe be something that I'm super interested in. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are so iconic. They demand excellence, and I wanted to be a part of something greater than myself, and I knew that. And I wanted to be a part of something that was so prestigious. And when I walked into AT&T Stadium for the very first time for that game, I looked at my mom and I was like, I want to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. And she was like, my parents have always been super supportive, but they were like, dang, girl, this is a big stadium. Like, you would want to be here. And I was like, yep, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to try out. Like, I'm going to do this.
That's
and
cool.
So my sophomore year, like I said, a little bit more time on my hands, had more opportunities to kind of think about how to prep for that. We didn't really know what the next year was going to look like, if games were going to start being back up. So you're kind of making plan A through Z. And then junior year, I got a little bit more serious about it. And then senior year of college, I was hitting the ground running. I was like, no, the next goal is Dallas Cowboys. And I kind of put all my eggs in one basket and just went for it. But also, like, I know it is such a selective process, and it's hard and it's rigorous, and some things like you can't really, have control over. So I knew that if this didn't work out, that's okay. I probably will stay in Alabama. I'll figure out like another job. But if I didn't make it my first year, I wanted to retry. I wanted to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. And no matter how long that took, like, I was ready for that commitment and that, I guess, that work to put into it. So
that's really cool that you went and you did it. And
Thank you.
Imagine like entering training camp as a rookie has to feel very
terrifying. Yes.
What was that like?
They had a previous show called Making the Team. And growing up, I've always watched that. And then I knew kind of, you saw a glimpse of what making the team was, because it literally was the girls in training camp. Once the team was announced, that was kind of like the synopsis of the show. And I'd seen it through television, but then seeing it in person, you're seeing like Kelly and Judy for the first time, like in person, and you're seeing their practice facility like you saw through, you know, the TV screen, and being there, you're like taken back because it's super intimidating. It's so iconic, and like you're just really taken back. It's just such a out of body experience almost being there in training camp. And so I knew I kind of had a little bit of expectations on what it would look like, but those like are completely thrown out the window, because until you're in it, you're like, oh my gosh, we are learning so much. I obviously knew that the process, that there were going to be a lot of cuts, and they don't bring the team of 36 into training camp. They're bringing probably 46 girls into training camp, and that's including vets. So that's giving, 10 cuts really roughly that they're going to have to make throughout the summer. So I had that expectation. I knew that going into it, but no one can prepare you for watching it. Like, you saw it through a TV screen, but then when you're there, you want it just as bad for that girl like you do yourself. And so seeing, cuts happen and being so emotionally, mentally, physically drained, it's hard. The emotional toll is super heavy, because you start to really connect with these girls because you're all in it. And so you have to be dependent on each other. And so it was tough. You're one, physically super exhausted. Two, you're learning so much choreography and you're trying not to mess up. You want to, put your best foot forward every single day. You're trying not to get cut. And then emotionally, when you see someone get cut, it is, it crushes you. And because one, it's like you kind of feel this guilt of, gosh, that should have been me, And so I think that was kind of an expectation I knew going into it, but it's not until you're in it where you're like,
like actually
hard.
Experiencing it.
Yeah.
And I think that scene with you, like in the car as one of your friends was leaving, like that, in general, like that was probably my number one favorite thing about the documentary series, because I think so much reality TV thrives on drama, and I don't know, like competition, and it really seemed like every single girl that was a part of that, at least this is the way it appeared, is that they wanted to lift each other up, and they wanted everyone to like feel supported and encouraged and like a sisterhood. And so I loved seeing that. I thought it was so refreshing and like inspiring. And even just like performing on my high school dance team, even if you were to just do a team sport or activity in general, people could relate to that bond that you have with one another. High stakes, kind of like, I can't even imagine like how high those stakes were, like bonds your relationship, and I don't know, just like girlhood. I was like, this is like, I love this.
It is. And we were so happy with the end result, because one, you're putting trust in the hands of people that obviously we've been able to create relationships with the team, the film crew, and our producers. Like, they're the absolute best. And but at the end of the day, this is a lot of trust. Like, we didn't know what to expect. The integrity and intentions day one, I think, have remained the same since the beginning of what the producer really wanted to see out of it. And that was really showing the sisterhood and the bond between the girls, because we are a team, but at the end of the day, like, you're best friends with these girls. And like you said, like any team you're a part of, like, you work so hard with them. You see them 24/7 and go through not just physical change, or you're working towards the same goal, but you're walking through life together. And once you experience training camp, like I'm so grateful for that special moment that they capture that, because that is just a small glimpse of, the real bond and the real friendships that you make.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What are your self-care non-negotiables? Matt?
For
Let me tell you mine. No,
for me, I need to go to the gym. That's one of them. Having some me time. What about you? What's your non-negotiable?
Definitely gym, fueling my body well, having a little bit of me time, like away from people, like you said, and just overall keeping my life in balance. That's such a big thing that I've honestly had that as my word of the year for like 4 years now, balance. But it's just something that's like, it's crucial. Like to being healthy, happy, everything. Just keep every aspect of my life in balance. And that goes for my physical health, emotional health, and my mental health. And that's why I think BetterHelp is an amazing, amazing resource. We've used their couple counseling. Now we're diving into their individual counseling.
Yes.
But basically, it's entirely online, designed to fit you and your schedule. It's online counseling. So basically, you fill in your needs, your criteria. For us, I'm pretty sure we said we wanted, it didn't matter if it was male or female for us, but we did say we wanted someone that was like a little older, and you can switch your therapist at any time for no additional charge. It could not be more convenient, and it's a great thing if you need it for a short period of time or for long term. It's an amazing, amazing resource, and there's no shame in giving it a shot. I think we could all use someone to talk to.
Exactly.
If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/unplannedpodcast today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/unplannedpodcast.
Having to watch that and relive that moment, this is kind of getting off topic, but when Will and I watched it, we've only watched it once, and that was it. I was like, okay. I think this is it. We're just gonna watch it one and done and say we did it,
Yeah.
Because having to explain to my family and friends and Will during training camp what you're experiencing is really hard, being in a completely different state. And obviously they're trying to understand and cope with it and feel like they can relate to it. But when Will got to watch that night and me explaining it to him a year ago, he was like, whoa, like I didn't really realize like this is what you walked through. Like this is what you experienced. Because that night specifically, Charlie unfortunately was the last cut. And we knew that that was a team of 36, but we also didn't know, like, we didn't want to go into practice the next day thinking, oh, we're a team of 36. Like, they're going to announce the team, because we didn't know if there was still going to be another cut or they were going to bring someone back. Like, your mind is just like kind of chaotic, and we didn't want to settle for something. We didn't, I don't know. We were really hesitant with walking into that practice the next day. But when I told Will, Charlie got cut, he was like, oh, Reese, like that was your best friend, but that's a team of 36. And I was like, yes, but I'm heartbroken right now. I'm crushed. And so him seeing that, I think all of my family and my friends that I explained it to kind of took a step back and thought, whoa, like, yeah, y'all walked through so much emotional grief. And while my friends, everyone being so supportive, thinking, oh my gosh, you made the team, they also saw like what the
I'm
other
not ready
side
to
of
celebrate
it.
right now.
Yeah. It's a hard thing to process. Something I've never experienced before. Being crushed, but also celebrating, but also feeling a little guilty. Like it's pretty strange. But yeah, that was such a special scene.
That was something I was surprised. I was like, these girls don't seem relieved when it's like, okay, that's one step closer to like being on the announced team. But like I never saw anyone like being like, oh, phew. It was more just like, oh, look at what I'm losing. Like, instead of gaining, which was hard and like sad for you guys, but also really cool to see that like support and like you guys were already becoming a team through that process.
Well, how long was that though? Because you and Charlie got very close, clearly, just from what we saw on the show. And so, like, how long did you have together to form that strong bond?
So they announced the team July 14th of last year. And we started training camp a little bit over a month. So training camp was actually the shortest it had ever been, just because our season started earlier and there was a lot of other activities that we were doing in the summertime. So they needed to announce the team pretty quickly. And so we had gotten so close in just a month time span. But
a month is a long time.
It is. Yeah. And staying in the same hotel, together, it's you just become so dependent and just grow so quickly together, and dependent on each other, and practice all the time and get ready, go to practice. Like, it was just such a sweet bond, and we were walking through the exact same thing. So it was just really special to have someone else that could really relate to you, and vice versa.
Do you think that they showed everything that they needed to show from the whole process?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously everyone is so busy and I'll just put it at that. There's a lot of things that were included and there are a lot of things that weren't included. Some being, there were a few different shows and things that were included, but just because it was busy, one, or two, some sort of rights kind of like didn't really like cross. Like, for example, there was a really cool concert that we were a part of, but we couldn't get like the rights to like music and like little stuff like that. But it was a very accurate depiction of kind of what we walk through and what the year looks like, how busy our season looks, because no one ever saw a glimpse of kind of what weeks look like or what the process looked like leading up to the Thanksgiving game or stuff like that. Obviously through social media, things are posted, but it's not until you see the behind the scenes of how much work, how much practices, how many appearances and events that you're doing. I think that it did an incredible job at showing what goes on behind the scenes rather than what's, going on at practices. It was really special to even see like your own teammates, what they do behind the scenes. So
because you didn't even know that you're going to be one of the main characters essentially on the show, right?
Right.
You just thought that everyone was getting equal screen time. Everyone was having cameras follow them everywhere.
Absolutely.
And so when did you find that out, that you were kind of the main person?
So honestly, I don't really recall the exact time. I feel like it probably was towards leading up to our wedding. Again, my mind being so like wedding based too last year. That's all I was thinking about. One, just making sure I put my best foot forward as a rookie, like making sure I knew my choreography coming in, making sure like as a perfectionist, like I wanted to make sure I'm not messing up and stuff like that. All the little things that we think of. So my mind was so into X, Y, and Z, and then didn't really kind of come to terms with, oh, the show, like that's also something that's happening. And when it came out, we saw the first two episodes right after the wedding, actually, like in May, before it was premiered in June. So I was like, oh, that's me. And that's a lot. Yeah, I guess I didn't really know until I saw the docuseries that it was pretty big, that there was a lot of me and Will, and I was like, oh, this is great.
Did that make you uncomfortable?
A little bit, yeah, as I'm like doing this right now.
Yeah, I can tell you look like, whoa.
I just like never in my wildest dreams thought that this was in the Lord's plan, and obviously he exceeds and gives far abundantly than we could ever ask, and so I just never knew that this was like his plan for my life. And like I said, never thought like this would happen, and I never dreamt of it happening, because at the end of the day, I wanted to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. And we didn't really know what to expect when the docuseries came out, so we kind of just were kind of twiddling our thumbs like, okay, we'll just see when it gets here. And so yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking because it's not just the U.S. seeing it, it's international. And, I feel like a lot of people know a lot more about me than I know myself.
They're like, I was just processing this as I
I'm
went.
just processing it. And I feel like I've stepped into a whole new world. But it's been such a beautiful, crazy, chaotic, but blessed opportunity. So I'm super grateful for it. But I also am like, whoa, people know who I am and know who Will are, and just all the things. So
I truly think what it is like, I think America and the world is tired of the in-your-face reality TV, loud fights, drama, and yet we have the show called America's Sweethearts. And
it's
then
refreshing.
Yeah, and then you have like you and Will, who are just a sweet couple, which like fits with Sweetheart. So like,
thank you.
I think that's what it was, and I think the producers probably made the right. I think they made the right choice following you and telling your story, because you're just a genuine person who really cared about this passion of yours to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, and then here you are getting married. So I don't know. You deserve everything that you're getting and more. Like seriously,
handle it so gracefully.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
And you're so humble about it too.
And hearing Abby and Matt say that, I'm like, oh my gosh. No, I'm so serious, and I just thank you. That means everything. And there's, I guess as newlyweds, we've always thought, like, what's our purpose? Like, obviously as a married couple, like, we want to make the kingdom bigger, but what does that look like? And God was like, I know what it looks like, and you're not even going to expect it. So just hearing that, it means the world. And I think we're trying to do our best with handling it all, but we're also human. And I think, like you said, like, I think the world is kind of tired of seeing, like, picture perfectness, because it's not, like, that's not real life. And so I hope that in everything that we do and everything that we say, any interaction that we show, that, like, hey, we're relatable, like, we're real people, we're just as broken, we're just as confused and messy, as any other person is. And so I think that the show also highlights that, is that we're daughters, like, we're sisters, we're friends, like, we are women who have dreamt big, but also have so much more going on behind the scenes. And I think that the show really shows and highlights that, because when you put that uniform on, there are a lot of eyes, and little girls' eyes are, like, looking at you with stars. And it's like, oh, no, the stars are actually in my eyes, because what I can do is, if it's just such a mutual thing of being able to give back in a way, but also become relatable in a sense of, like, hey, if I can do this, like, you can do this. And I think that's what the show really shows and highlights.
A really sweet moment. Speaking of, like, it's funny hearing you say, like, not being perfect, because in my eyes, I'm like, you guys look perfect, like, literally amazing. But also there was a moment, and I think it was at the end of an episode, where you guys are about to go out onto the field, and you went a hair early, and then, like, scooted back, and I was like, that made me fall in love with you even more.
I literally love that moment. And so that's funny that you say that, because, long story short, the show came out the first day of training camp this year. And so my mind was like, oh, no. I'm not watching this until the weekend, because I got to be focused in a training camp. Like, I don't want any distractions. My phone was, like, on Do Not Disturb. Like, I just don't want any distraction.
It's crazy that it fell on the same day.
Yes, what a coinkydink. And so, but one of my teammates had reached out, and she was like, have you seen it yet? And I was like, no. Like, I'm waiting until after the week. I'll watch it Saturday and Sunday. Our training camp started on Thursday, because that's when the show came out. And so I was like, I'll watch it on Saturday. And she was like, there is a part that I absolutely love. And it's something that I vividly remember, because as a rookie, you remember all of your mistakes. And walking out, she was the one that was like, Reese, like, come back. And she was the one that had told me. And I was like, they put that in the episode? She was like, yeah, it's so great. And I'm like, you know what? I'm so glad that they did, because there are so many other mistakes that I made. But at least if I can show someone that I am so flawed and imperfect, then I did my job.
It was so, like, endearing just to see, and your, like, little recovery. I was like, I love it.
Okay. Yeah. And then I see the camera crew, and I'm like, even better. Okay.
Even better.
Let me just, hopefully y'all cut that out, but it wasn't.
Something I didn't expect from the documentary was that it was scary. It was that whole situation with the camera guy and the groping, and then, like, I would have never thought of something like that happening. And obviously, like, they weren't able to pursue the charges because they couldn't have enough evidence.
Yeah.
Tell me about, like, how do you deal with that as a cheerleader? Because I don't know. I mean, that's just something I would have never thought of.
Like, kind of viewed as, like, a sexual icon in a way, with like, and so I know that they were saying that they have a lot of security measures and how they handle that.
Absolutely. So I feel like, one, hearing that, it was devastating, because, like I just said, like, we're daughters, we're sisters, we're friends, we're, wives, some of us, we're fiancés, we're girlfriends. And, but at the end of the day, like, we're best friends. And so when you hear that, like, that happened to one of your teammates, like, it hits home real hard and deeply. And like you said, we have incredible security, and I never want to, downgrade them, because they are absolutely amazing. But in a game, there are a lot of people on the sidelines, and it is hard to see everyone. There's 90,000+ people that are at a game, and there's a lot of people on the field as well. And it's heartbreaking to hear and to have kind of witnessed that, and I've seen like your friend go through that, because when it's embarrassing and you feel icky and you feel weird and you're like, that's not why I'm doing this. Like, I'm doing this because I love to dance and I'm representing something greater than myself. But there's a lot, unfortunately, eyes that might see this, and I don't want to say lustful, but unfortunately in a more lustful way. And I think that's a little scary in a sense of like, hey, like, that's not what I represent. Like, who I am in the uniform, I'm the same person outside.
Thank you to Liquid IV for sponsoring this portion of today's episode.
Abby is addicted to Liquid IV.
I am.
You so are. The first thing, we were just traveling, the very first thing Abby said when we got there, she's like, I need to order some Liquid IV.
Yeah.
Because you can't really go without it.
I always have the sugar-free ones, but I've tried the other flavors and they're delicious too. They taste really, really yummy, and that's my main thing, but also they make me feel so hydrated. So I live in a warm climate, and I feel like a lot of us are in our warm climates right now because it's summertime. And I also am a very active person, so it's really, really, really important to hydrate. And with Liquid IV, it's just easy. You tear, pour, live more. That's really easy. Say it with me now.
Tear, pour, live more.
One stick of Liquid IV and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. It's a science-backed way to hydrate better with 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, and always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. I actually put one whole packet in my 40 ounce because I don't like it as strong, and it is just enough flavor to just make it a treat. You're gonna love it if you give it a shot. And let me tell you, your kids will love it too. If Griffin takes a drink of my water and there's Liquid IV in it, that thing is gone. He sucks it down. They actually have Liquid IV kids too. Indulge in hydration this summer with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code UNPLANNED at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code UNPLANNED at liquidiv.com.
There's always a what if situation, but we're also like extremely grateful for the people that we work with, our security crew. Like, they're amazing about, for example, like when someone comes and takes a picture with us, they're not allowed to touch us. They either have a football or they hold something, or they're kind of the center of the attention and we're behind them, like in the corner. Because that's what we want to do. We want to like leave someone better than we found them and make sure that they feel like seen, loved, and valued, and that they're the center of the attention and not us. But too, it's also for just security purposes and protection for us. And because there are some times where you're like, ooh, this is a little weird. You kind of give an eye to like the security guy, and he's like, okay, yeah, I get it. I'm following. Like, I'm going to be aware. But yeah, it's just like a weird, that is unfortunately a part of another side of this job. But too, I don't want to live in fear in that way. And none of us do. But it does catch you by surprise when something does happen, because, I mean, in that case, it was kind of inevitable, like, just because there were so many people. But too, I think moving forward, we want to put our best foot forward in the sense of, okay, this happened, this is not right, and we want to make sure that we put all the, set all the right rules and boundaries and all the things, like, moving forward so that this doesn't happen again.
Do you always have security with you when you're in uniform?
Yes.
Is that kind of something that, okay, you're in uniform, is it like per group of girls, and you have at least one guy per, I don't know if there's like a rule for that.
Yeah. So usually our appearances, there's 2 girls most of the time. A sit and sign or a stand and pose. That's what we call it. It's either you come, we're sitting, we're signing things, or we're standing and posing. Pretty self-explanatory. But there's usually 2 of us. And so we usually have 2 security guards with us. And then when it's a group, there are a few more. But usually when there's a group, there's a bigger event. So therefore, there's more security. But anytime there's like a performance, especially game days, where there's a performance right before, it's like our pregame performance that we do outside of the field. And there's security all lined up because we're like in between fans. It's blocked off, but there's a lot more just because of being out exposed, like in the public. But other than that, we definitely always have security. And we're very fortunate enough to have security with us, even with practices. With practices, we have security all around our premises and inside our practices, and they also walk us to our cars every night, which is super sweet because you never know who's in a parking garage. So yeah, super
awesome.
super blessed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that when I think about the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, I think of like we're saying, like kind of picture perfect, beautiful, and womanly. And especially like they have the bikini and they have like the belly shots and stuff. It's like, while I do think it's done in such a classy way, how do you navigate yourself like through your own like discovery with modesty related to your role as a cheerleader?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like there has kind of been a negative connotation in the sense of body image and what that looks like. And I think as time has evolved, our program has really taken a positive direction in the sense of, hey, we want you to feel and look your best. And it's not the sense of like, oh, you need to look like this or your way. Like, that's all kicked out the door. If you feel good and you look good and you're putting effort into like who you are physically, mentally, emotionally, like that's what we're proud of. And we want to showcase that. So in terms of speaking like all of the other swimsuit calendars and things like that, like we are now promoting and showing healthy and relatable bodies more than the unrealistic expectation of hip bones and, you know, tiny like legs and all the things, because we're athletes. Like we have to be able to fuel ourselves to do what we're doing on the field, because it is not easy. Thunderstruck at the very end. You've got to make sure like you're fueling yourself and you're, you know, being kind to yourself, like mentally, emotionally, because this is it's very rigorous. The direction that we've kind of taken now is more healthy mind, healthy body, and making sure we're fueling yourself and showing like, if you want to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, what other better way to promote healthy living and being a role model is showing relatability and not a perfect body, because there's not a perfect body out there. So that's something I have to remember. I
love how you refer to yourselves as athletes, because Abby and I, you mentioned theater, growing up doing theater. Abby and I met doing theater.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, like after doing dance numbers where you're doing like triple pirouette, like, you know, switch leap, like all this stuff.
And singing and dancing all at the same time. No one knows, but that is hard.
You're out of breath. Like it's hard to breathe, right? And you're like dripping sweat. Like you must be drenched in sweat by the end of Thunderstruck.
Oh my gosh. It's quite bad. People were like, pictures. And I'm like,
like, can I please breathe?
Maybe not. Yeah.
Someone have water.
After a game, I look like a wet rat. I'm not going to lie. I leave and I'm like, this is not what I looked like pre-game. And then post-game, we'll have to do a video where I'm like, this is me before a game, and then this is me after a game.
Yeah. You're like, I'm dripping in sweat.
Yeah, but no, it's athletic, and what we do is hard, and a lot of people don't realize this either. But you know, Thunderstruck is already hard enough, doing it from the very beginning to the end. But when you put the boots on, that's a completely different dance, because it's essentially doing like a dance in ankle weights. Like the boots are real; they're real leather Lucchese boots, and they're so iconic, and I love them so much, but they're heavy, and you have to be able to perform in them and point your foot. And I mean, think about real leather boots. I cannot imagine
pointing your feet in a boot.
Yeah, so it's definitely harder than it looks. I think we try to make it look effortless and perfect, but at the end of it, when we walk off, best believe we're like wheezing. We're like,
well, that's the thing, right? It wouldn't be fun to watch some people dance and look like they're in pain the whole time, right? So you have to pretend like you're like, oh, you're smiling and you're not sweating your face off and your makeup's stripping.
Did I just hear a pop? Yes, I did, but I'm smiling through it.
Yeah, so that's so impressive.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
The famous like jump,
splitting and jumping.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because we just announced our team, and throughout training camp, I remember the very first night we did jump splits was like right after my birthday, and I remember last year it was on my birthday, so I was like, happy birthday to me that I get to try this jump split for the first time. And I remember the rookie candidates thinking like, oh my gosh, like this is like really nerve-wracking, but like I know I can do it, but like I just have to do it. And then having to do it in front of Kelly and Judy, like it's already like scary, because you don't want to mess up. You want to make sure like you don't want to get cut. And so I told a rookie candidate, I was like, listen, taking off a Band-Aid with like hairy arms hurts, right? But if you just rip it off, it's done. And I said, it's almost like that. You just have to rip the Band-Aid off, take a breath, jump lightly, split, land, and you're done. Like, sometimes I have to, I don't close my eyes. Also, don't try that at home. And don't close your eyes. But sometimes I'm just like, okay, here we go. And land. Like, that's what I have to think about is instead of, there's obviously a lot of, don't do this and land like this and all the physical elements to it. But at the end of the day, it's like a mental blockage is you just have to let go. And like growing up as a dancer, I did, acro and I did a lot of different tricks and stuff. And it's almost like learning a new trick. It's like, I've got to remove my mental blockage and just do it. Nike, just do it, And so that's literally what we have to do is like, nope. Kick. There's 6 kicks at the end, and then you're done.
That has to be damaging to your body, though.
Well, yeah.
There's no,
Like,
there's no way that your hips are like, oh, that's okay. Like,
yeah, your hips are like, oh, thank you so much for that.
Because I'll be honest. I only joined Abby in watching the documentary towards the end, but Abby was filling me
I was
in.
like, get over here right now.
Abby binged it. She was obsessed. But
I love it.
Like, what is up with? Wasn't someone getting like a surgery because of their hips being screwed up from the jump split?
It's
Jump split.
demanding.
Yeah, it is demanding, and so many people are like, oh my gosh, you're so young. Like, your body is so healthy, and I'm like, thank you. Yes, I guess it is, and I'm in my like the best shape possible. But the older you get, and especially as dancers, like anatomically, we're doing things that aren't natural. Aren't natural. One being a jump split, and I think as a dancer, that's just kind of something that comes with it. Is like a football player. You're not going to tell a football player, "Hey, stop doing car collisions every single time you do a play." Like. Essentially, that's what they're doing. Yeah. And it's not like you're going to say, hey, stop doing what you love, And that's kind of similar with dance is like, hey, the 85% external rotation that you have that's anatomically not correct, stop doing that. It's like, well, no, that's like what my job requires and I love to do it. And so I think that's just kind of something that we think about and when we do the jump split. I'm not going to sit here and say that it feels good all the time. Because it's not like, oh yeah, let me just do it in the morning. Let me do it at lunchtime. We do take precautionary. We do our best with doing those measures of like, hey, like we always do thunderstruck and practices of we'll do thunderstruck full out kicks, pretty kicks, no J, which is not just eye level kicks, not all the way. That way you're not, sore or tugging on those hamstrings. And then no J, no jump split. So the only time we're doing our jump splits is in front of a crowd when it matters. And so we try to just really be cautious on how many times we're doing it because it does take a toll on your body physically. But we have great trainers and we have great resources that are helpful in the sense of knowing that we're getting older and our bodies like can't do this forever. Like if you told me in 10 years I'm going to do a jump split, I'd be like, no. This is probably the only time I'm ever going to do a jump split is this career, because it's hard and it does take a toll. But unfortunately, that does come with it. Like any other athlete, you are getting hurt. And unfortunately, the sport that you play. And that's just one of the things. You
look at these NFL athletes, the football players on the field who are getting paid, $20-30 million a year, the craziest salary. And good for them. I'm happy for them. That's awesome. But I was shocked when I looked up what the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders make because I don't know if this is true, but the internet was saying something about $75,000 a year for a cheerleader. I don't know if that's true. Was that
it's
above?
It's not that much, Matt. That's what it says on Google, though.
Yeah. There is your testament to never trust what Google says.
So it's lower. It's lower than that.
Yes, I would say so. But I know that there's a lot of controversy with, how much we get paid and stuff. And I'm grateful that we do get paid because in some instances, some NFL programs do not get paid as much as we do. And so we are very grateful in that sense. But like any other NFL cheerleader, you have to be able to have another income coming in. You have to have another job with it. Yes, you do see these football players and you're like, wow, you are making so much.
It's like you make you
so
alone.
much money. but at the end of the day, like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and because it is so prestigious, and you know, not everyone can say that they're a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. Like that in itself is a chapter I'm always going to cherish. And so at the end of the day, like money is temporary and it's a worldly thing. Like I can't take that to heaven. And so, but the opportunities and the experiences I'm gaining through this journey and this chapter, that's building my character, and that's the thing that I can take to heaven. And so that's something that I always try to remember, because it is hard when you're living in a world where you're like, wow, you're
There's
making
expenses.
millions.
Okay.
There's expenses.
I'm kind of a nerd, and I just did some quick math in my head.
Yeah.
The players on the field individually are making more than the entire team of cheerleaders. Like one player.
That's kind of crazy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, like
She said, yeah, I believe it.
one guy. And like the quarterback, I don't know what he makes, but like let's even be generous. Let's say that the cheerleaders made $100K and times that by 36, that's $3.6 million. Yearly
That's not
a quarter
our contract for our quarterback.
Oh, I know. Your
Which is
quarterback's
crazy.
your quarterback's probably making like 30, 40 million a year.
It's wild. Yeah.
So he's probably making like
So-
he's making as much as like all the NFL cheerleaders in the whole entire league.
could very well.
She's like,
but-
that checks out.
Look, okay, honestly, let me just say this. Like, clearly you love what you do. So you'd probably
Yes.
do it for free. Like, when you love something so much, I know what that feels like. Like, it's so much fun
Yeah.
to entertain and to do an art form that you
passion.
love. Yeah, it's your passion. But, like, at the same time, I don't know. I want to see you guys get paid more. I really do.
Matt
And I
kept
feel,
bringing that
and
up.
I know that the money's there too, because like the NFL is so freaking loaded. There's so
Yeah.
much money in the NFL.
Well, the U.S. supports NFL. You know, like we're constantly buying tickets or buying
Yeah.
someone's jersey, or you know that $20 popcorn you just bought
Yeah.
is helping them somehow.
Right.
You know,
I just know there's no reason that any cheerleader in the NFL at all should be paid under 100K, in my opinion. That's
well, thank you. That
What
very
is the
kind.
job that you have? Do you have another job to like subsidize
I
your
do,
income?
yeah. So I work at a flower shop, which is
That's right.
super fun. I am around incredible women from all walks of life. I've got like just wisdom being poured into me. I've got people that are a little bit closer in my age. Like it's just so sweet to have like motherly figures in my life too. Just to be able to be around, and it's so much fun.
This episode is sponsored by ZocDoc.
Do you have an appointment that you need to book at the doctor, but you keep putting it off because you don't want to drive all the way there and spend your time waiting in an office? ZocDoc is so convenient because you can book doctor's appointments from the convenience of your freaking phone, and then you can just have the appointment at your house.
ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and so much more. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments sometimes, which is so nice because, as you guys know, it can be really hard to get into an in-person doctor if you have one, but then if you don't have a doctor, like there's been so many times with moving and being in different places where I've needed a doctor and I find myself just going to urgent care just because I don't know how to find an in-network doctor conveniently, and ZocDoc makes that so easy because all these adulting things, there's no handbook, there's no manual. It gets confusing at times and it gets stressful, but I'm really thankful for ZocDoc because it makes that step of life, finding a doctor, getting your insurance through and everything, a lot more seamless. So I use ZocDoc and you should too. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/unplanned to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/unplanned. ZocDoc.com/unplanned.
Being able to make someone's day with flowers is so cool.
You got to meet Dolly Parton because of the flowers. That's so crazy.
Oh my gosh. I still just cannot believe that happened. But yes, that
What
was
an
a pinch
icon.
me moment for sure. But yeah, it's so special. And I feel like when you order flowers, it's to bring joy, whether you're walking through grief or whether you're celebrating something. And so it's just really special to be a part of someone's joy and celebration with life.
Tell us more about Dolly Parton. What was she like in person?
Wait,
what did
I
you
have-
talk about? Oh, sorry.
She's so sweet.
I just have one more question about the flower shop thing. I'm just curious. Is your role at the flower shop more lucrative than your role on the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders?
Wait, like,
which one do you make more money doing? Wait, so you mean to tell me that you make more money delivering flowers than you get paid as a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader?
Dallas Cowboys cheerleader for sure.
Oh.
That is definitely.
Okay.
Oh, hourly though.
It's
You're probably
more.
making more hourly doing flower deliveries.
Right.
Got it.
But what kind of is like a blessing in disguise is I don't have a 9-to-5 job as of right now. Just because throughout this year I wanted something to like obviously bring in a little bit more income, but something that I enjoyed. And I'm a big stickler about that is like, if you don't love what you're doing, then like, no, it's not worth it, you know? And so I love what I'm doing. Thankfully, like Will's job is great and we're doing great in that sense. But what I really wanted was something I can look forward to in the beginning of my day, have a little bit of time so that I can get ready for practice. And this was especially important in rookie season because I wanted to have something and then come back and do choreography and make sure I'm prepared and all the things that you kind of have to do in your rookie season to be your best in practice. And so like all the other, not all of them, because some of us are a little bit different with our schedules, but a good bit of us do have 9-to-5 jobs, but those are also like second year, third year, fourth year vets who have been able, they walked, you know, they walked in our shoes. But yeah, so it's better with cheerleaders for sure.
Yeah.
Can everyone go follow Reese on Instagram right now? It'll take literally 2 seconds. Go to Instagram, follow Reese. We gotta blow up her account, okay? Because
That's so kind.
You're not getting paid enough doing what you're doing, so we gotta like support you somehow.
Oh my gosh, Hillary, so
Sorry, back to Dolly Parton. I want to know, what was she like to meet?
Oh, what you see on camera is who she is off camera. Like, she is just this cute little ball of sunshine that you could just like put in your pocket. You would think that she's like pretty tall because she always wears her 6-inch heels, always. But she's so little and so petite and so cute. And I just remember she had so many security guards who were these huge, massive like dudes, and they're, you know, I guess they're all from like Nashville, so they are all like wearing their boots and their hats, and they're just like really massive. And I'm like, where's Dolly? Like, she's probably like this big, you know, around them. But I just remember walking in being like, oh my gosh, this is kind of intimidating. And then seeing Dolly, she just is such like just a firecracker. She's so sweet, so cute. And I remember completely being starstruck.
Wow.
I was speechless. And I'm so glad that Kelly, our director, started talking because she's an incredible speaker. Like, just very well spoken. And I'm just so glad that she did the first move because she was talking and I was like, I've got to form sentences. Like, I've got to be able to make sure I can speak. Like, I cannot be embarrassing at this moment. But I remember looking at the producer because he was in the back and I was like, like, I was not expecting to meet Dolly. All I was expecting was just to drop off the arrangement because I'm like, of course they have her hidden.
Like, this
and
is
like,
my job.
Yeah, like I'm just walking, boom, and then leaving. But no, like she comes in, and I just was like taken back. I was like, I cannot believe this. It was like almost like an out of body experience. I was like, I don't think I'm actually seeing Dolly in front of me. I was like, please, someone pinch me.
It was funny seeing Kelly fangirl because always Kelly is so
collected.
You know, she's very collected, very well spoken, and yet like here's Kelly just get fangirling over Dolly Parton.
Yes.
It was kind of interesting to see.
It was special to see because the first time I met Kelly, I was same thing. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Kelly Finglass. Like, that's crazy. And kind of seeing the roles a little bit kind of not switch, but she was just as taken back too was really cool because Dolly is just so iconic. Like, oh my gosh, she's literally the best, most incredible female country artist ever, and she will go like down in the history books as that and forever will be. And so it was just such an honor to be able to meet her.
What a cool opportunity.
Yes.
Speaking of more on Kelly, I feel like it's because the audience for the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleader docuseries is so much broader that, like you even said, it's global. Like it was like number one, you said in Australia, things like that. So many more eyes are on it than are typically would have any idea of like what's going on in the dance world, especially like the NFL cheerleading side of things. Yeah. So there's been criticism about how the coaches like coach essentially. Yeah. And I guess like how do you view it? Like, do you think it is a little too harsh at times? Do you think that maybe sometimes they need to lighten up their approach?
It's interesting that you say that because I remember going to LA for kind of like press interviews before the docuseries was out, and Kelly kind of got asked that question in an interview, and she was like, it was very eye-opening to see kind of everything.
That's true. I didn't even think of that. They're just seeing your response like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she was kind of talking about, Kelsey's a nurse, and, I was planning a wedding, and there's just so much more that you see that it's going on behind the scenes in the sense, like, Anna Kate, I know the world kind of got introduced to her and her sister and seeing kind of their sweet bond, and, and Victoria too, like her mom being a legacy. Like there's just so much more that goes on behind closed doors that was revealed to everyone, including Kelly and Judy. And so Kelly kind of mentioned that, and she was like, it just was a different approach now. And she said, even as like a coach, like taking this new approach is just, it's refreshing and it's new because she never had seen that. And but to answer your question, I do think that being a part of something that is so iconic, so prestigious, and, Kelly and Judy do, demand excellence. With that comes a lot of responsibility and comes with a lot of practices, sometimes a lot of thick skin. And in order to be the greatest of all time, you're going to have to sacrifice and do a lot. And so I think that that's just something that I've always remembered, that sometimes decisions and things that they say, they also have a job. And so I always have to find myself of just respecting a decision, whether it's, what I think is the right one or the wrong one. At the end of the day, they also, have pressure on them as well. So I think that's something that we always try to remember is like some things we cannot have control over or, handle, but Kelly and Judy are the ones too that have a lot of pressure that they've got to make sure that excellence the bar is never being kind of teetered.
Is there a minimum height now? Because I noticed when Ari got cut, that was something that was discussed on the documentary. Oh, should we make it a rule that you have to be a certain height to be on the team? Did they ever make that a rule?
I don't believe so. And that was one of those decisions that you just kind of had to take a deep breath and keep moving forward because I love Ari and she's so talented. And shout out to Ari because she is now a Miami Dolphins cheerleader.
No way.
Which is incredible. And we're just extremely proud of her. She's thriving. But that's one of those decisions that's like, you don't have a say. And so whatever happens kind of happens. But I don't know if there's a height requirement now. That's a good question. I'll have to look into that for sure.
Yeah, that Abby and I watching that part of
that one struck a chord as a 5'2" girlie. I was like, wait a minute, and we can haul.
Yeah, right. And I think what's I could be completely wrong, but I do think we have a good amount of shorties on our team too, and so me including myself. And one thing that, like in the kick line, it goes from middle, the tallest to shortest. And I think it was just more on the fact of like maybe those spots were already filled or, we needed someone like taller kind of sense. But yeah, those are those decisions that just don't make sense, but happen. And we just have to respect it and kind of move forward. But that's where that emotional toll hits because you're like, you just build connections and growth. And it's like, I already had no control over that. And those are hard. Those are hard to witness and walk through, but
that's tough.
What has it been like seeing yourself become famous. How is your family reacting to that?
Yeah, I think my family is so just amazed at it because they're like, we never thought that, they've always been so supportive and have always had, high hopes and everything. But this would have shocked us if you were told like, hey, this is going to happen to Reese's life. We'd be like, huh? What? And so my mom and dad are just like, this is just such a cool thing. Like, just enjoy it. And they've always been so supportive and encouraging and helpful. Obviously, this is something that we've never navigated before, so it's new to them, and it's just definitely, it's a learning process, I think, for all of us. Even my friends, like my close inner circle too. It's something that's not normal, and so I'm trying to just handle it with as much grace, but also grace for myself because I don't really know what I'm doing. But I have to remember my why, and my why was I want to make the kingdom bigger, one, but two, I want to pursue and do everything wholeheartedly to the best of my ability. And now on top of this new world I've entered, I want to do the same. And that why has never changed. So,
which one of your friends or family members is the one updating you on your followers going up?
Oh my gosh. So many of them. It's funny. A lot of my roommates from college are doing it, but we have a really close family friend. We just call them family because they are, but it's just a mom, a dad, two girls, like we're all just super close with, and they're the ones that are constantly like looking at my social media account, and they're helping me too in the sense of like, hey, there's a comment that you might want to take down, or like something like that. And I'm like thankful for it because sometimes I just don't see those things. But two, I've got a lot of friends. I honestly can't just pick one. They're like, did you know that your account like followers went up this many and this much? I'm like, I don't have time to look at that, but I'm glad that you do.
That's so funny.
Yeah. It was funny because, people watching this probably are like, what are they talking about? But like my college roommates wouldn't watch our videos, but they actually made fun of me when I first started doing YouTube 5 years ago. But they were like, wait, dude, you just hit 100,000. They're like, bro, you hit 100,000. What? And then it was like, dude, you hit 1 million. So like, I wouldn't even check, but they were the ones keeping us informed. So I think that's so funny. That's your roommates.
Right. I'm sure that there's probably more too that are looking, but aren't going to tell until later or something. But I think Will's friends too are seeing it because Will's from a really small town in Alabama, and we're just amazed that this is happening. And I think Will is extremely amazed that this is all going on as well. But his friends are like, dude, you just hit 10K. Like, that's huge. And I'm like, I know.
When did that happen? When did you pass 10,000 followers?
Oh my
She's
goodness.
talking about
Will, yeah.
Will
actually just hit 10K
Let's go.
2 days ago.
Let's
And
go.
he was like, he sent me a screenshot, but I know his friends were probably all freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, dude, you're so cool.
And we'll go follow Will.
I need to go follow Will after this.
Yes, you do. He would be so honored. Oh my gosh.
That's so funny.
It has just been such a fast train, and there's like no sign of slowing down. Such a blessing, but so crazy how everything has happened kind of like overnight, honestly.
Hey, real quick, I don't want to take much of your time. I just wanted to thank you guys for being here. It seriously means the world to us. I don't know if you can tell in this episode, Abby and I are half asleep because we slept 3 hours the night before and woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to fly to Dallas and film 2 podcasts. So we really appreciate you being here. We put a lot of work into these podcast episodes. And if you wouldn't mind hitting subscribe or sharing this podcast with a friend or someone that you think would enjoy it, that would really mean the world to us. But only do that if you like truly enjoy the episode, because we just want to make sure that you love this episode as much as we do. Again, this is just a dream. We feel so thankful, so blessed that we get to do this. And we're so happy that you're here with us along the journey. So thank you so much. We really love and appreciate every single one of you. Now let's get back to the episode.
I'm so curious. Is there going to be a season 2?
I think we're all very hopeful for it. And I think like that would be super cool. So, because it's done so well already. But we have no idea if there will be. I honestly don't even know if Netflix knows that as well. So we kind of we don't know. We're kind of in limbo. We're just like, do.
Well, I think we're all hoping for season 2.
Yeah.
So put in our vote for Netflix if you hear this.
I think if Netflix was smart, they would
Netflix,
look
if
at
you're listening.
Netflix, make a freaking season 2. Okay?
I feel like it has just, it's inspired so many people.
It's crazy how relatable it is, too, as someone that grew up doing dance. Like,
Yeah.
Abby felt like, I know that she's felt what you guys went through.
Absolutely.
Not actually, right? Because like you're freaking auditioning for
Yes.
the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders.
No.
But anybody that's been a part of like competition dance or dance at all
Yeah.
can probably relate in some way to what you guys
100%.
felt auditioning
Yeah, I
for
was
the
telling
show.
Matt, I was like, I miss the thrill of performance because that is so fun. But ultimately, it made me miss being a part of a team of girls,
Oh my
like
gosh,
constantly, so much. And so, I think that is like me, kind of in the next season of life, maybe 2 seasons on, being a mom, and like I'm like, oh, I miss like always being around like while I love my babies, like being around other women, like I miss that so much. And that documentary, like, oh, but it was also such a warm feeling too, because I was like, oh, that was such a special thing that I got to experience.
It's so special. I mean, like this literally just popped in my brain, but anytime you're working towards the same goal with a group of people that you absolutely love and adore, it is super special, and no one can break that because no one knows until you're in it about how deep and strong your bond is with each other. But just for instance, like for a musical, when I did musicals, like obviously you've got like you're doing kind of like sets where you're blocking out like, oh, where you're gonna enter or where you're gonna exit, or like quick change, like, oh, I got your quick change, like I can help you, like all those things like tie into each other, and it's like that's such a bond and such a team aspect. Same thing with us is like, you know, I giggle at this because when we do this thing in the kick line where we put our leg up and we do like this like ripple effect, and I don't know why. This is so random. But one of the girls I'm next to right now, we're the exact same height, but completely different bodies. Like my legs are so short and my torso is so long, where her legs are so long and her torso is short. But when I put my leg up on her, I have to like put extra effort because she's a lot taller, in the sense of like our hip
where your hips are,
our hips are. And so it's just little tweaks in the sense of like, oh, I got you, I'm going to do this for you, or I'm going to do this. Like those are so special, and they all kind of add up where, I don't know, like, do you see what I'm saying? Where it's like,
right.
If you're doing like, I don't know, I've never cheered before, even though people think like a cheerleader, we do stunts. We don't do stunts. We're dancers. But if you're doing a stunt, if you're a cheerleader, like if there's a base and you need a little extra tweak, like I'm sure there's some chemistry bond where you're like, hey, I need a little bit more help in this way or this way. Like, I don't know, you just build such strong support and just get deeper on like such a sweet level as a team. So
like one unit with multiple parts.
Yeah.
I love it.
I didn't even think about that. So yeah, you guys don't do stunts. You don't do backflips or get thrown in the air.
I don't know how to do that.
Hold up. Okay. Why is it then that's like high school cheerleaders, and then that's literally so far off from what you guys do?
You know, I honestly don't know, because there are some NFL programs that do have cheer.
And they are
teams.
doing stunts.
And it's more of a newer thing, actually. Okay. And I think it's really cool that they're incorporating both, because an NFL cheerleader, you would think like that term cheerleader, you're thinking stunts and backflips and tricks and stuff. But essentially we're dancers. Like some of us have never cheered before in our lives.
That was like my high school dance team.
Yeah.
We had pom-poms, but we danced with
them. But you had both, though. Like a lot of high schools have the cheer team and the pom-pom squad or whatever.
I think the term cheerleader is, if you have palms in your hands, you're essentially a cheerleader. Mm-hmm. Whereas cheer and dance are two different sports. Whereas cheerleading, you know, just kind of, I guess comparing this to going to Alabama, we had a co-ed team and an all-girl team, and they're beasts. They are so amazing. Every single time they go to nationals, the all-girl team like has won multiple national championships. So has our co-ed team, or has been in the top 3. Like super competitive, but that is the cheer pro, like that is being a cheerleader. Yes, they have palms in their hands, but so does the dance team. But we're dancers. So I don't know. It's very interesting how like that term has just kind of been broadly used. And if you have palms, hey, guess what? You're a cheerleader. But so many people ask us all the time, like, what level are your stunts and stuff? And I'm like, hey, sweet girl, I actually don't know how to do a stunt, and like I don't even know like what some cheer terms mean. I'm just a dancer, you know.
Are you still in shock? Like, do you feel like imposter syndrome?
I'm in shock that I'm doing this podcast right now on this couch. Y'all are literally sitting on my couch in my apartment right now, and I'm freaking out.
That's so funny because like you should have heard Abby was cheering when she was like, Reese responded to my DM. Let's go.
I called my friends. I called my sister-in-law.
No, it is so mutual. But I just remember telling Will, and I'm like, I'm freaking out. Like, I genuinely don't even know if I can do this. Like, I'm just so giddy and so honored, and so just appreciative that you guys thought of me and our story.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for coming on. I hope that we were able to like fully represent like what your experience has been. And we're so excited for you.
Thank you.
And we also we just want to see you grow. Like we just want to see you continue to crush it. And I'll be honest, I did not realize coming into this that literally everything that's happened has been just in the past month. Like that is crazy. And that makes me even more excited for you and Will because your life is like just starting to change, and it's going to continue to change. And you're in a really exciting season of marriage too. So we're just so happy for you guys and want nothing but the best for you.
Yeah, I think something Kelly said on the show, or maybe it was Kelly. I think she was like, "Does that girl ever cry?" And it's so true because it's just like you emulate joy. Like you just make others around you feel more joyful and optimistic, and so
that's so sweet.
That's something I love about you, and I feel like our viewers can probably just like feel that through your phone. Just like your energy is just so humble, joyful, and like Matt said, I also feel very excited for like what's in your future.
Thank you. Fun fact before we wrap up, but as we were watching that scene, Will was watching it with me, and he was like, if only they knew. Because obviously sometimes like, oh gosh, Will and my mom and my dad, like anytime I just have to be extremely vulnerable or I'm upset about something or frustrated, like you kind of take it out on your loved ones, unfortunately, because they love you like unconditionally. And so there have been many times where either I'm stressed or I'm overwhelmed or I'm like sad or frustrated, and like I'll just like let it all out, and I'm like just tears flowing. And Will was like, wow, if only they knew that she does cry. Like she is human and she does get sad and all the things. But I thought that was so funny. He was like laughing out loud. He was like, if only they knew.
That's funny.
Did you cry off camera during the whole filming process?
Yeah, I definitely. I just think that, you know, I didn't really know what to expect. Like there was a lot of anxiety too that was kind of led throughout the year with just so much happening. Like just graduated, just got engaged, I'm planning a wedding, rookie season, so many moving parts. And then we're filming a Netflix show. Like what? And so there's just a lot of normal anxiety that just kind of built up throughout the year. And I would definitely kind of, sometimes I would go to practice, I would come back and just, not that I was ever upset or sad about something, but I just needed to like let it out. Like, and I didn't really know how to do that unless I just kind of, unfortunately, just kind of cried it out. But that's just human of me, you know?
I love a good cry.
And as Will is that like the person you go and cry to when you need to? Okay.
Oh yes. There's times where I'm like, I don't even know what to say, and I don't even know why I'm crying, but I'm just gonna cry. And he's like, okay, all right, well, you just let me know. Like, and there's times where I'm like, no, I need you to say this. Or he says something, I'm like, that's not what you needed to say. And he's like, you just let me know when you're ready to talk. And I'm like, okay, but I need to cry first.
That's so relatable. I feel like that's always, you can attest. I'm like, this is what I need to hear right now.
Yes.
And I was like, why can't you come up with the right words on your own?
Okay. I have ADHD, so this is why I just thought of this. But what happens if you get pregnant while you're on the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders?
Can
you still dance?
don't think you can kick that.
Has there ever been a pregnant?
I'm not too sure if that's something that we've really thought about, because I think like that's just kind of an unspoken like.
Don't get pregnant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does that affect you guys with planning a family?
Yeah.
Probably. I'm assuming
That's a good
probably
question.
might
Y'all
want
are
to have
the
kids.
first people that have asked. I'm not like, this is.
Oh
this
yeah,
is really
that's a
sweet.
5-year plan then.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So, really, I'm so grateful for Will. Obviously, he sacrificed so much for my dream, and I think that's pretty clear too. Like on the docuseries, I know like he touched on that briefly, but I think
Oh, it was so sweet. He said his dream was you.
yeah. And I had no idea that he had said that. Like he never told me that when they interviewed him that he had said that. So when I saw it for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, jeez, way to just, But anyway, so I think that's just kind of an unspoken thing that we just like don't really talk about, but like we know like that just can't happen because obviously like it's. The uniform is a little revealing in that way.
Was my belly button does not look like it can be in a Dallas Cowboys uniform.
Fun fact, though, there was a DCC at one point that did have a daughter.
No way.
She was such a go-getter, and she could, like was a killer. Like I was like, wow, go mom! Like that's such a. I want to aspire to, be like that. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, she broke boundaries and set or broke expectations. Like it's just really cool to see her kind of conquer. I guess like a stereotype that
for sure.
you kind of have over that topic.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because you can definitely dance. You can dance while you're pregnant, right? Like that's not a
Sure.
thing.
Matt,
Like you can
there's
work out.
no way your kicks could be high. Your belly would
Okay,
literally prevent.
hold up. But like, let's talk
maybe
about
like
like
first trimester,
Maybe,
right?
but that would be really hard.
Like,
Yeah.
I
let's-
don't think you'd have the physical ability.
Let's do the math. Would it be possible to be pregnant while you're still dancing and then like have the baby during the off season, then come back for the next season? Would that be
Heck
possible?
no.
Would that be possible?
Did you see their show?
That's true.
Did you see me go through postpartum?
You need a whole year, but you could probably take a year off. I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
You could have to do
Hey,
it.
you could. But
Your belly button would
I'm
maybe
too
not.
sure. I will say a lot of the girls who have retired are now becoming pregnant, which is super fun and super exciting to see that they're starting their families. But I think that's just something that like Will and I have had that conversation of like, we are not ready to be parents because we have a lot to figure out already. Obviously, after a whole month, I could not even picture us being parents right now because we have a lot of stuff that we're just like trying to juggle. But we've kind of like dreamt about what life would look like post DCC and like family and stuff like that. But as of right now, like I want to pursue this, and like if the Lord's tugging on our hearts to move and close this chapter and journey, then we'll listen. But as of right now, like we're here.
This is it.
This is it.
How many kids do you and Will want to have?
Ooh, good question. I think 3 or 4, but Will and I have also talked about like, Lord willing, if I know unfortunately there's like complications and other things, like we can't really plan like what that's going to look like if I can become pregnant or if I can, or etc. But we would also love to adopt. I have a cousin who's adopted from Ethiopia, and she is just the most beautiful person in the whole world. But it's been really special to kind of have someone adopted in our family, and I don't know, it's just so beautiful. And so we've talked about that, and yeah, so maybe 3, 4. But I would love to be a boy mama, but also girl mama. Like I don't know. Just whatever.
Boy mom is the best.
The best.
It is. It's a lot of fun to have boys. Why boys? Is that because you had older brothers?
Older brothers. I would love to have like 2 older brothers and then a girl, because that's exactly like what I grew up with. And I think it was so special to have just 2 older brothers who always looked after you, but also they were a lot older than me. So it'd be cool to have kind of a best bud or like a friend, whether it's a boy or a girl, to have them a little bit closer in age. But yeah, I would say two boys and a girl. But if the Lord blesses us with all girls, then great. If he blesses us with all boys, great. Like we just want a fun big family.
Is
awesome.
Will also like with the same opinion on 3 to 4?
Yes,
He
I
is.
think so. Yes, he actually told me the other day, which is so sweet. It like makes me cry every time. But he's like, gosh, I just can't wait to be a dad. Like he's just gonna be the best dad. We're gonna have such a crazy, fun, chaotic household, and I cannot wait for that one day. But he would love to coach like the boys, or he would love to. He had a sister, so he participated in all of the dance performances and all of that.
No
so
way.
I think he would be a great girl dad or a great boy dad.
It has been a pleasure having you on the show. If you guys haven't already followed Reese on Instagram, go do that. Where else can people find you other than Instagram?
So I am on TikTok.
Hey. Okay.
I'm trying to become like really cool and Gen Z, or even though I'm not in the Gen Z like generation, I just, find me on TikTok. We're doing our best, but it's very real organic, and we're just trying.
Let's go. That's awesome.
So yeah, I am on TikTok, but my band handles are the same. They're the same on Instagram as TikTok.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah.
Sweet. What is that exact handle?
It's Reese_Christine with an extra E at the end after Christine.
Well, you heard it from Reese.
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. Check us out on Patreon, where we post not only commercial-free early releases, but also bonus episodes, quarterly merchandise, files that you can't get anywhere else. And I'll post that video version of Reese's interview that you heard today, in case you're someone that likes to see the video versions. And for Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.